Make FPS games great again, except unlaunching your game is the eventual outcome. Now, if you've heard of Splitgate 2, you've heard that it was going to make the FPS genre great again. Unique mechanics, unique things, gunplay, gameplay. It was gonna be the next big thing. And then it launched, and then it unlaunched. Then they spent a shit ton of money on streamers. Then they laid off a bunch of the studio. The only thing Splitgate did was it did not make FPS games great again. It expanded the FPS graveyard by yet another game. Now, this is pretty normal. Almost every FPS game dies, right? There's nothing special or major about this. If you launch an FPS game, let's be real, your FPS game is very likely going to flop. It's just reality. Why would somebody play your unique gimmicky game when they could be playing the amazing Concord? That's a joke. But they could be playing Apex, Valorant, CSGO. There are so many other shooters out there that there's no reason for a new FPS game to really take hold in this genre, in this industry. Except Splitgate tried it, and they failed. Right here you can see that Splitgate peaked at 26,000 people, give or take, and I'm being generous giving them an extra 300 players there. In the last 24 hours, it was an 1,800 player peak. In the last 90 minutes, about 970 people. The game died, right? It failed, it flopped. This isn't a big game. It by no metric did it actually hit any of the metrics it was trying to hit or reach or achieve. In fact, it failed so severely that it laid off a shit ton of its people, of the people working at the Splitgate 2 studio. So let's talk about the streamer situation, right? They paid out $400,000 for streamers. And being real, it did nada. Now, streamers can bring people to a game, right? Look at games like Peak. Look at all these indie games that pop the fuck off because streamers start playing it and pushing it and makes it go mega viral. But Splitgate 2 just wasn't that unique. It wasn't that interesting. In the grand scheme of things, Splitgate 2 was interesting. It was kinda cool. But a gimmick is not a selling feature, and that's what Splitgate 2 offered. A gimmicky version of gunplay and gameplay, and it just didn't really expand things in the way that people wanted it to expand. I'm not gonna sit here and say it was a dog shit terrible game, but the gunplay wasn't better than its competitors. The gameplay wasn't better than its competitors. The gimmick wasn't better than most of its competitors. It didn't offer any particular dominating feature on any particular variation of the FPS genre, whether it's extraction shooter, battle royale, gunplay like COD, like Fortnite. No matter what kind of game you're looking at, it didn't hit any metric to that level of elitism, to the level of amazingness that makes people excited to give it a shot. So the $400K they spent on streamers did nothing. It was $400K wasted. Now, in terms of marketing budget, it's actually not that much. I know a lot of companies spend tens of millions, not hundreds of millions on marketing. GTA 6 is probably over 100 million. The average Call of Duty is probably over 100 million. Most big games spend 50 to 100 million on marketing. So 400K on just streamers, it's whatever, it's a wash, right? It doesn't really affect the company like that. But you know what does affect them? Unlaunching. That's right, Splitgate 2 unlaunches, studio to cut staff ahead of a 2026 re-release. The multiplayer shooter will return to beta as more layoffs hit 1047 games. That's right, making FPS games great again? Nah, firing your staff and relaunching your game. That is the meta. Following its surprise launch in June, Splitgate 2 is now unlaunching. The multiplayer first-person shooter will remain online in a beta state and continue to get support through a Season 3 update and bug fixes. But developer 1047 Games is otherwise pausing its planned roadmap to overhaul the project ahead of a relaunch in early 2026. Studio is also cutting an unspecified number of staff members and shutting down servers next month for the original Splitgate as cost-cutting measures. Basically, I feel like we missed the mark, and I don't think that's a secret. 1047 Games CEO Ian Prolx told Polygon in a video interview ahead of today's announcement. Now, I probably butchered your last name, I'm sorry about that. I want to say I'm actually really surprised that the CEO admitted that they didn't hit the targets and metrics. That's really rare in the modern day and age, so on that account, kudos, congratulations, I respect it. And I do hope that the 2026 relaunch actually hits the mark and delivers that, because I found the game somewhat entertaining. I thought it was a rather interesting game. I'm not going to touch on any of the drama, any of the things that happened, like the $100 bundle. Because I remember when he announced it, he was like, we're going to make FPS games amazing. None of that bullshit other FPS games have. And then he had a $100 bundle inside the game. you know, it was kind of like kettle calling the pot black kind of situation, right? But the fact that he admitted that to his mistake, to the fact that the game just missed its metrics, it's commendable. But you move on and you think about the fact that, can you really just unlaunch a game? Does that actually even work? Now, Final Fantasy XIV did that. That was an MMO, if you guys don't remember. It launched, called Final Fantasy XIV. It was such a dog shit launch that everybody thought the game was dead forever. So they relaunched the game into ARR, A Realm Reborn, and now it's one of the biggest MMOs in the world. The second biggest, in fact. To be fair, I wasn't counting Eastern MMOs because, you know, in China, for example, MMOs have 100+ million players. They're far bigger. But just the Western world, it's the second biggest MMO. So technically, you can unlaunch a game and then relaunch it. But I am struggling to think of many times that that's actually succeeded, and it feels off, right? It feels kind of sad that that's where we are with gaming now, that you failed the launch, monetization, spent money, bought stuff, did things, and then they just take the game down, play in the beta, we're gonna relaunch it. Yes, we know we told you this was a finished game, but actually we were wrong. We're relaunching the whole thing. We're starting from the ground up. Yes, I'm sorry, but go fuck yourself. Try again in 2026, it'll be good then, I promise this time. Now, we'll go into this other article by IGN. The first one was Polygon, this is IGN. And on June 6, 2025, 1047 Games launched Splitgate 2. Now, less than 2 months later, the developer is about to unlaunch it, also taking Splitgate 1 offline and laying off 45 employees. Today, 1047 revealed its plans to temporarily wind down support on the game it just released so the studio can go heads down on what it says will be a complete overhaul of Splitgate 2. The game will remain playable during this time and will still receive its promised Chapter 3 update and some bug fixes, but other than that, Splitgate 2, as we know it, is done. That is until early 2026 when the studio promises it will return with big, sweeping changes. This reminds me of Overwatch 2, where they re-released the game, made it drastically worse, made it unfun, but they made it free to play. And this is probably what's going to happen with Splitgate 3, I guess, or Splitgate 2B, 2A, like I'm not sure what the title is going to be here. Splitgate 2 the second time. Either way, I'm gonna be real, I'm not that excited. I don't think it's going to really hit the metrics it needs to hit in today's day and age. I just don't think you can launch a game in that state with the reputation it has and then expect it to relaunch and actually be a successful product. The CEO has said the right things. If the community wants X and that's what they want, it doesn't really matter what I want. And a CEO of a company saying this needs to be resounded across the industry. A lot of gaming CEOs seem to just think about the money and the metrics and not about player expectations, player goals and gains and dreams. They just want to make a game that'll sell, make money, in-game transactions so they can milk you for even more money after you pay money to buy the game. And realistically, if you just ask players what they want, the answer is almost always a resounding, a good game, a good experience. Anytime a game has been good, it's done banger numbers. For example, Expedition 33. Ex-Ubisoft devs left Ubisoft, which as you guys know, its track record recently has been rather dog shit, made their own studio, launched Expedition 33 to global success. So global that it almost made people like French people again. And that's what I'm saying, is that when it comes to the modern gaming scene, just give people good fucking games. It's not an outlandish ask. Ubisoft, your ex-employees made an amazing game by delivering what they thought was gonna be a fun experience. That's it. So if the CEO of Splitgate 2 of 1047 Games says he's going to listen to the community and make the FPS game that people want, Splitgate 3 might be a good game, and honestly, I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll see if it holds true or if this is another rug pull, begone game, and once it's gone from memory, they shutter the studio and move on to the next project. We're not sure what the future looks like, but we will find out, I guess, in about a year and a half. So thank you all for watching. If you like this video, like and subscribe. If you hated it, understandable. Dislike and subscribe so you can be a dedicated hater. Don't half-ass your hate, full-ass it. Anyways, Ebonhard out. Peace.